Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your oh shit, I screwed that all up. Hey everybody, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, with my lovely co-host,
Krystal.
It is an honor and privilege to finally have Mr. Bobby Blitz, the vocalist of Overkill. We're going to be talking to him about their new album, The Grinding Wheel, which makes the band's 18th album, and that's fucking awesome. To still be around and have that many albums out. So, Bobby, how you doing, my man?
Well, good to be on the Mayhem Hour. I would have let that first introduction float. I mean, fucking up is part of what we do, isn't it? I mean,
well, just for you, my brother.
Sounded like you were falling down the stairs, John.
Oh man, just for you.
No, good to be with you both. Good to be with you both. Talking from New Jersey, just off the road about 10 days. But life is pretty good. Grinding Wheel being accepted at a high level, so life is as it should be in the Overkill camp.
Just for you, my brother, I will leave that screw up in there for you. I'm excited about this album. I like this album. It's still Overkill. Straightforward to the point. Nothing's changed. I dig it, dude.
I think to some degree it is, but I think that's kind of our brand, is that straightforward approach to things. But, when I listen to the record, this has got a lot more diversity than the recent template we've been using. And I'm talking about 2010 up until our last record, White Devil Armory. They were kind of like the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, those three records. But this one's got a little bit more of that punk rock vibe, a little more groove, a little bit more of the new wave of British heavy metal, some epic vibe to it, some hardcore. So I think it kind of works that this is, let's say, multifaceted, or many of the tools from our tool shed being exposed or reused on this record.
Who produced this album? Did you guys produce this, or who actually produced it?
With production, we've been doing our own for years. I think the last person who stepped in and produced anything for us from the beginning was Colin Richardson in '94. But we had even been doing it prior to that. Production is about great tones and organization.
Right.
You have to start with kind of a good foundation with, what you want your guitars to sound like, or knowing that you have a great tone with regards to the guitars, that when it's mixed, by adding a little bit of high end or a little bit of low end, that you're going to accomplish something that you envisioned prior. So production is getting those great tones and organizing. But that, again, was done by the band.
I'm not knocking any producers or anything out there who's making a living off this, but Bobby, do you guys like doing it yourself and having the time to do it when you guys want to do it instead of feeling rushed like this?
Yeah, we're kind of like speed freak control freaks. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got to picture us all kind of wide eyed in there, turning the knobs and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. But I think yes. I mean, to have the control. I mean, we've been doing it for 35 years. I mean, this is a hands-on opportunity for us. This isn't, five guys sitting around in their mom's basement, playing their instruments and wondering why nobody appreciates our genius. I mean, we manage the band, we produce the band, we write. I mean, everything that represents Overkill comes across my desk or Dee Dee's desk. When it comes to production, we're involved. I mean, we'll bring in somebody to join that team to mix a record, someone like Andy Sneap, who did for this record, The Grinding Wheel. But that's just to get that objective opinion at the end. But we liked having the control from the first step on. And again, we've been doing this for 35 years. I think we'd be absolute jerk-offs and not want that control at this point in our careers.
Well, sure.
How much growth musically have you seen Overkill go through from album to album?
I think that we're identifiable. I think that for sure, from the outside, the growth may seem minimal, especially to the casual listener. But I think that if you're in this, from the inside where we sit, we always see the growth. And it's always kind of about pushing, the boundaries. It's not about us saying, oh, wow, it was great in the 80s, therefore we deserve to do it in 2017. If you can push the walls out further on the left, the right, the center, front and back, then you have great opportunities to be valid in the current day. And I think that that's where the growth is, that if Overkill can release something in the current day that says, hey, it's valid, it stands up, then people remember you for what you are, or recognize you for what you are as opposed to what you were. And I think that that's where you can really see the growth or reinvention with regard to Overkill.
Yeah, and this band has stood the test of time with it. And I mean, I'm not saying it just because you're on here. I mean, it's the God's honest truth. I have you guys in my top 5 top 5 bands of all time. I mean, it's the God's honest truth.
Well, we've been threatening people in the music business for years. That's why they keep giving us deals. You know, we show up there. We knew it was going to be a tough road. You got to kick the door in, not ask politely.
Man, see, man.
We're the politically correct New Jersey kind of guys. Here, that's politically correct.
That's awesome.
I got a great story. I'm doing this interview with a cat from he's from, I don't know, the Ukraine or somewhere in Eastern Europe, and these guys are really serious. And I've always liked this because I like people. You know, I mean, I like to talk to people, and I like to tour and meet people, and I obviously have a sense of humor. And he goes, so you're from New Jersey? Can you tell us a little about New Jersey? And I said, oh, well, I live in Northwest New Jersey. It's kind of the mountainous region. We have beaches, blah, 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 et cetera. We have great history, Frank Sinatra, Bon Jovi. He goes to me, is there anything like The Sopranos? And I'm totally quiet on the other end of the line. And he's going, hello, Bobby? And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to talk about that right now. Oh. I left him with that right there, and I ended the interview. So I said, oh, that's got to be this guy's best interview of all time. And then he hung the phone up.
Oh, God. You scared the shit out of him, dude. He's like, hang the phone up. We're getting recorded right now. That's good shit, dude.
But I think you have to have a good time doing this. I mean, you don't do this for 3 decades if you don't like people, and you don't do this for 3+ decades if you don't like traveling. And if you take yourself too goddamn seriously, I mean, you're only going to be disappointed. And I think that, in what we do, it's always been a slow, sure kind of a progress. And yet at the same time, it's kind of holding on to what we have and trying to make it better and polish it and represent it. So I do think that to do that over 3 decades, you can't take yourself so seriously when it comes to sense of humor, but still present the music at a high level.
Well, sure. Exactly, man. God, it's all about having fun and just saying fuck it and go for it, you know? Mm-hmm. Are there any songs off the Grinding Wheel, Bobby, that stand out more to you, if any, man, possibly?
Well, one of the things I like about it, John, is that it's got a consistency or a cohesion to it from song to song. I almost feel as if each song relies on the one that follows it, and this is the way. It's like a kid that I always remember records. My favorite records as a kid were the ones that I wanted to hear the whole record as opposed to a few tracks or a few standout tracks. So, my favorites keep bouncing around between the 10 on the record. And I think that that's because it's a cohesive record, that, you get the feeling of hardcore and Red, White, and Blue. There's a great epic thrash and almost like Sabbath-esque breakdown center in Mean Green Killing Machine. There's that template I talked about with Ironbound and the Electric Age on Our Finest Hour. There's the Sabbath-esque groove in Come Heavy. So it kind of goes all over the place. And I think because I don't really have a favorite, or those favorites change from day to day or week to week, that's where the success in this record lies, that it's a cohesive record with 10 tracks to offer as opposed to a couple of cuts.
Keeping along lines with this, I'll let Krystal jump in here just in a quick second, but I just want to ask you the $1 million question, Bobby. How in the hell do you guys come up with a set list of having 18 albums, man? I mean, you got to go, no, we've done this one. Is it hard, dude, or just like, whatever, let's go for it?
Well, we get drunk, we put up all the album covers, and then we throw darts. Everybody gets 5 darts, and where they land. But I mean, there obviously is classic songs that we have. I mean, a classic song in the thrash genre is not something that, took the world by storm, but to some degree took part of the genre by storm. And that would be a song like Elimination or A Love from the Gutter. These were like videos in the early days that, in the days of excess and overspending by record companies to do high-end videos. And these were songs that got probably the most promotion in those days. So they always are in the set. But then there's the new stuff, and we like playing the new stuff because, you still do this based on some kind of a risk. The risk of playing live is still exciting to us. there's still the possibility of failure, regardless of how many times you've performed on stage when you're doing a new song. So, in my opinion, as many of the new ones as possible. And we're already up to 4 new ones in the set by this point. So some old classics, some new ones, and then everything kind of leaks in. People start throwing their 2 cents in. Let's do this forgotten one or that forgotten one. So it's really a democratic approach to it, where everybody kind of gets a shot at saying, "Boy, I'd really like to play this one," and there's no rhyme or reason to it for that middle section of the set. So new, classic, and then people's favorites.
What do you hope that fans take away from this album?
I've always thought, Krystal, that we did this. At the beginning, I don't know why the hell we did it. I mean, it's probably was just to avoid manual labor. You know what I mean? And it was fun and cool to be in a band. I mean, that's motivation enough when you're a young man, I think. But as time went on, I realized that there's differences in people with regard to the industry and the reasons they do it. And I found out that we did it because we never, there was a point where we didn't care anymore. And there's a great levelizing factor about not caring. If you say you don't give a shit and you're stamping your feet, you obviously give a shit. If you just say, what the fuck ever, I really don't give a shit, then you've just freed yourself from kind of any outside influence poking and opinion. And I think that that's what makes people the real deal, when you're not really influenced by the opinions of others. I look at myself as part of this community, but I don't look at, I have to write just to please this community. I have to write because it's real. And if it's, if you're the real deal and that translates over to other people and they say, wow, love them or hate them, they're the real deal. They do what they want. I think that that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of, and for sure I'm a pride motivated man.
Dude, I want to say this right now. I've been doing this for 6 to 7 years, and for the first time, somebody's actually had the balls to say, "Yeah, it's our music. We stand behind it. And if you don't like it, that's fine. It's just us." Finally, I'm sitting in, I think it was Romania. It was like 1997. I'm sitting there with Dee Dee. We're like out in front of a hotel having coffee, and like, in those wife beater T-shirts that you see that came from New Jersey, and I'm going, I said, what do you think about the next record? He goes, what do you mean, what do I think? He goes, I said, well, where are you going with it? He goes, I don't know, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, are we? I said, no, I don't think we're going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just curious. He goes, he looks at me, he's stirring his coffee, he stops, he goes, Blitz, we've been over since 1990. He said, there's nothing more dangerous than 2 guys from New Jersey with nothing to lose. Yeah. And I thought to myself, how fucking great is this? Yeah, exactly.
Talk about being free.
Yeah.
And I've always kept that with me, that quote. And that was 20 years ago he said that to me. So I think that, he was right with regard to that, because if we didn't have anything to lose, we could always be free to do what we wanted to do. And I think people pick that up, and I think that that's what makes this kind of thrash community great, is that it's a community that appreciates realism and honesty.
What helps you keep your mind open, man, throughout the years of writing lyrics? Do you do anything differently? Do you not listen to radio, stuff like that, to influence you? I mean, let's talk about that a little bit.
Dude, I'm a regular cat. That probably it was another Eastern European said, it's great to talk to a legend. I said, let me put it in perspective. When a legend is mowing his own lawn on Sunday, he's not a legend anymore. That's as simple as it is. When he changes his own oil, he's out on a motorcycle with a whole bunch of other guys, smoking cigars and spitting. You're not a legend anymore. You're just a cat. You're just this regular dude. And I think that, it's the way I've always tried to live my life. That there was an understanding that this was for sure not something that was only earned, but given to me to some degree. And I think I'm really grateful for that. And when it comes to lyric writing, I don't try to overthink anything. I try not to go into politics. I try to be the, let's say the anti to that, the parallel road or the perpendicular, the right turn to take you away from that stuff. So what I do is I collect thoughts between records, and then, for a 2.5 month period, I kind of confess my sins on paper, before the next record and talk about my principles, and I kind of come out of my basement, my studio, a better person, because I at least had the balls to say I was wrong here, and I was wrong there, but I was right here. And these principles are correct and these principles are wrong. So I think that it's, it was something that I was really lucky to be given the opportunity to have an outlet to kind of cleanse myself every 1.5 or 2 years, because on the back end of it, it makes the guy who's on that motorcycle or mowing his own lawn or changing his own oil happy regardless of what he's doing.
For sure.
So I think it's just a real simple daily, day-to-day process for me and keeping my eyes open.
What's your take on the digital era that we're in as far as recording and distributing music?
I see a lot of the old war horses sit there and they, it's kind of like, these guys are, they're trying to put themselves up against progress, and you can't do that. You can't stop progress. I think it was a Clutch song that said something very similar, or if not exactly. You can't stop it. You have to be able to reinvent yourself, and you have to be able to accept it and embrace it. And if you don't, then you become that guy that says, when I was a kid, it was uphill to school, there and back and in the snow, everything was always harder, and it's, my feeling is that you're forgotten and irrelevant in the current day or the present day if you don't embrace, what the world has to offer. If the world has to offer it, now this is the norm. What used to happen doesn't matter anymore because it's not happening anymore. I've experienced both ends of it. And of course, I have preferences because I made a hell of a lot more money when it was a different way. But we've reinvented ourselves to be able to understand that this is still possible, as a business, to create positive revenue to launch a passion from.
Right.
If the positive revenue is a platform, then we can launch our passion from that platform. And that is just about reinventing yourself. You can teach an old dog new tricks as long as the old dog's willing to learn them. If the old dog is willing to not learn them because he knows better, then he will be forgotten. And I think that we've, and it's evident with regard to this interview or even this new record, that we're willing to learn at this, even at this late phase in our career.
What can fans expect at a show from the mighty Overkill when they come out to see you guys?
I just went through the tour. I remember coming through about 4 or 5 of the shows. I said, you're making me feel like I'm 55 years old again. I got a heart on and I'm going to use it.
You don't need no Viagra.
Now, again, nothing more dangerous than a guy like that, too.
Oh, man.
I think it's about energy, I said I'm pride-based and pride-motivated. It's probably my biggest sin, but it's also my biggest motivation. And I think that when it comes to this band, that also is much of the other guys' motivation. And, we want to compete, and we don't go in to lose. A guy said to me the other day, "Oh, wouldn't you like to have like a whole bunch of thrash singers, all these, singers from other bands come in and sing on one of the tracks with you?" I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here!" I said, "I go in here to beat these guys." I said I like them personally. I mean, I'll have a hamburger and a beer with them at a barbecue, and I'll talk music with them. But I still think I'm in a better band, and I think that when you think that way, you get great results. So we take that to the stage because that's probably one of our biggest aspects of pride is that this band has always been able to more than hold its own when it comes to rolling over town to town.
For sure. Agreed.
After being in Overkill for so many years and accomplishing so much and going through so many lineup changes and life changes, what keeps you going and keeps you really dedicated to making music?
Well, first of all, it has to be in you. And I think second of all, I keep mentioning my home state and some of the, funny characteristics we're known for here or, or not true characteristics. Some actually are true, but I think that we're also opportunists here, and I know it because, this is my area for, my entire life, except for touring. And, it was a place where immigrants came. I'm second generation American. This is where, my grandfather came, and this is where Dee's grandfather came, and Dave's grandfather, and Derek's, and again, there's something about a work ethic when it's instilled in you from those in your family when, you were both alive, me as a little kid and my grandfather, saying, I was picking potatoes in Ireland and, it just wasn't working. And you came here. So I think one of the things that keeps us going is that work ethic. These were boat people. And, when they pass that on to us, I still to this day remember my uncle saying, work hard and keep your mouth shut. Don't tell anybody your fucking business outside this family. And that's something really special about that. And I think that we understand opportunity. And I'm not saying other places don't, but for sure it's very common to this area because this is where, many of the, original immigrants got off the boat. And I think that stays with us, that when opportunity happens like that, and it's something that you can do that you feel is great, you relish those opportunities and squeeze the shit out of them to have another success. So I think that that's probably the greatest motivation.
What made you want to become a musician? What was that spark for you, Bobby, that said that's exactly what I want to do there, other than getting chicks, my man?
Well, yeah, it's a great story about girls and I was in Manhattan College. My father worked really hard, and he put me through a prep high school, and I got into Manhattan College in the Bronx. And I was in Overkill at the time, and I was really close to a degree. And then we got offered a record deal, and I had to make a decision whether to finish school or take the deal. And I sat down with my dad, and I said, I'm going to take the deal. And he said, but you're so close. And I busted my ass on this. And, he said, this is about girls and free beer. And I said, no, Pop, it's about art, Well, in any case, it starts taking off and going different places. And, 25 years later, I'm doing a benefit for one of the New York Mets, a guy named Mike Piazza, who's a great thrash metal head. And he goes, Bobby, anything you need, you let me know. I said, Mike, I need your luxury box at Shea Stadium for me and my father. And he gives me 15 tickets and loads it with sliders and beer. And then I'm sitting there with my dad on his 75th birthday with my brother and my nephews, and, everybody's there. We're having a great time. And my father looks at me and goes, Bobby, I knew this Overkill thing would work out. I just wanted you to be happy. And I look at him and I say, Pop, 25 years ago when I left the university, I said, it was about girls and free beer. And he looks at me and goes, I know. What motivates you? Who knows?
But
Who knows what the instant motivation is? But that's a true story.
Yeah.
And but that was the motivation at the time. What it turned into was something different because it actually has become, it's not really a career anymore. It's just a life. I mean, I'm in this, forever. I'll probably be, when you bury me, I'll probably be wearing an Overkill shirt. But I think that there's something beautiful in that, to be able to have found something that, is your niche, to, have impact on other people's lives, to have those people have impact on my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking other bands. I'm talking about people, like yourselves, people who listen, people I talk to outside the bus night after night when we're on the road, So I think that it's, that becomes very motivational from day to day.
Is there any particular show or moment over the years that stands out to you?
Well, in 1999, I had a friend in Europe prior to that, and I had lost track of her for years. And in 1999, I saw her again, from a distance at a show at a festival called Dynamo. It was Metallica and Manowar headlining, and this was our first time at this festival. It was the original metal festival of Europe. It was unbelievable. 100,000 people at this 99 show. And there she was standing on the other side. It was like a sun ray shining on her through the fence. And 4 years after that, we were married. So it was, that's probably the show I remember the most because of how it affected my life personally.
How crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Really
I love that.
You never know, right?
We just had a love moment on here.
See, I'm actually a genuine person. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, that I vacation on desert islands with supermodels and sit around telling my shrink that nobody understands me. It's not. It's not that. It's just a regular. It's just a regular life, and it's just and I'm just proud to be part of this community.
Well, sure. I'm glad you are, dude. I mean, I'll get in that in just a little bit because I owe you guys a huge amount of gratitude. What's it mean to you, Bobby, when you receive an email from a fan or prior to the shows or after the shows? They say that Overkill's music has pulled them through a tough time. or it's gave them inspiration to overcome obstacles, or it's just made them to relax of the everyday bullshit that we go through. What's that mean to you after all these years?
Well, it's huge. I mean, it's, it makes a difference. I mean, we've always tried to be involved, on that level, on a grassroots level. I mean, we're big supporters of the military, have been, from the beginning. We've always donated to any of the aircraft carriers that are going off. We always send all our music out there, as soon as we can. I have letters all over my office. I have one from an admiral that was from the first Gulf War, when we sent stuff over there, and run into guys all the time after that, or individuals who are just kind of lost. But, I kind of think that one of the cool things is that when you put a whole bunch of lost people together, that you find out you're not the only one who's lost, and that would include me too, to some degree. You find out you're not lost. When there's a bunch of people with much of the same characteristics that you have, or that you think are only common to you, and I think that's what that we found in this whole entire scene, is that sure, it's entertaining, but to some of us it's almost a religious experience and very spiritual. And I think that when it comes down to changing, it's also changed my life, obviously, too.
I just have to say, as a fan over the years, thank you for what you guys have done, because when my dad was sick, and I tell these bands, it's made an impact on my life that, I was lost when my dad was sick. And if it hadn't been for Metallica and Overkill and the Misfits and the Ramones and, Danzig, stuff like that, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now, because it affected me that bad. So thank you, my friend.
Hey, man, my pleasure. Believe me. I was being selfish when I was doing it, but I'm glad I helped somebody.
Well, you did. So how can folks buy this new album, merchandise? How can they do that? And I'll get you to do a promo before I let you go.
Well, you can see it online. I mean, obviously, all you got to do is Google The Grinding Wheel. You can find it on Amazon. WreckingCrew.com is our website. @Overkill Band is Twitter. Overkill Band is the Facebook. All this stuff is available through there. I mean, obviously, it's a click and buy era, so that's where you can find it. You can download it from iTunes. You'll see us on the road in September. There's actually a show through Kentucky, so I know that this is not local, but for you it is. So, keep your eyes open. We'll be coming through there on the Metal Alliance Tour.
Sounds good.
That'll be a headline for us. Yeah, keep your eyes open. You can find the record online. It's called The Grinding Wheel.
Before I let you go, will you care to do a promo for the show, good sir?
Okay. Hey, what do you say, boys and girls? This is Bobby Blitz from Overkill. That's right. You're on BODS Mayhem Hour. Must be the right place to be.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and Uber City Radio from my lovely co-host,
Krystal.
We'll see you next week. Thanks, Bobby, so much, my man.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Krystal.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now.